After 30 years of loyalty, they tossed me aside like a broken tool. But the price they'll pay, that's the real disaster. I'm Howard Miller. At 61, I'm the field operations manager at Summit Construction Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, a position I've held for 3 decades. That title used to be something people respected. Now, it's just a reminder of how fast things change when profit trumps principle. I've spent my entire adult life in this business, walking every site, studying every blueprint, and making sure what we built stood the test of time. I'm not a man easily swayed by shortcuts or empty promises. Integrity isn't just a word for me, it's the foundation I've laid beneath every steel beam and concrete slab. I turned down temptations to cut corners, even when it meant losing favors or promotions. I believed in building safely, building honestly. My late wife, Catherine, was the quiet strength behind it all. She passed years ago, but I still feel her warmth on those long, sleepless nights. Nights when I was hunched over plans, the soft glow of my desk lamp the only light in the room. I missed birthdays, holidays, even the little moments with my son because work demanded every ounce of me. But I did it for them, for the family I wanted to protect. I wanted to leave behind something solid, something that would outlast me. Summit Construction was once a beacon of trust in the city. Under Franklin Walker's leadership, the man who built this company from the ground up, it was never just about dollars. Franklin preached one principle above all: buildings are for people, not just profit. Every project carried that weight. Safety first, always. We held ourselves to the highest standards because lives depended on it. But lately, that spirit feels like a ghost. The hallways of Summit's offices have grown colder. The meetings are sterile, punctuated by the tapping of keyboards and clipped conversations about efficiency and market positioning. Younger faces fill the rooms, eager, ambitious, but lacking the grit and knowledge earned through years under the sun and dust of construction sites. They've come armed with business degrees and buzzwords, not hard hats and blueprints. I watch them replace the veterans, the men and women who carried the company through storms and setbacks, like silent spectators to their own fading legacy. I can feel it, something shifting beneath the surface. It's in the hurried glances, the hushed whispers, the way the old guard is quietly edged out. The foundations of Summit, once solid, now tremble under the weight of change. And I know my time here is coming to an end. But I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot. Every new email, every reorganization plan, every passing day tightens the noose. I've seen it all before in other companies, but this time it cuts deeper. The signs are subtle: strategic hires, the dismissal of experience, a new COO who talks about modernizing, but seems to care little for what truly keeps a building standing. I'm not naive. I know that loyalty only goes as far as the bottom line. But I refuse to go quietly into that dark night. The storm is coming, and I'm ready to weather it. Because after 30 years, I still believe in the work we do, and I believe that shortcuts will catch up to anyone who dares take them. The question now isn't if I'll be pushed out, it's what happens after. What price will they pay when the walls start to crack? I'm holding on to that thought, like a lifeline, in the cold silence of these changing times. I still remember the first time I laid eyes on Jason Reed, the man who would become the storm at Summit Construction's door. He was everything I was not: young, sharp-suited, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. At 35, he carried himself like a rising star, a man on a mission to remake the company in his own image. The new COO, they called him. A symbol of modernization and efficiency. But what I saw beneath the polished surface was a cold, calculating ambition that threatened to rip apart everything I had worked for. Our first meeting was anything but cordial. Jason didn't waste time pretending to respect my years of experience. Instead, he greeted me with thinly veiled condescension, as if I were a relic from a forgotten era. "I appreciate your service, Howard," he said, voice dripping with false sincerity, "but the company needs fresh eyes, fresh ideas. We can't keep doing things the same way and expect to compete with national firms. His words hit me like a slap, but what really stung was the way he said it, as if my knowledge was a liability rather than an asset. From that day, the tension between us was palpable. Every meeting became a battlefield. Jason would interrupt with his buzzwords, streamlining, cutting overhead, agility, while I insisted on the importance of safety, thorough inspections, and respecting the integrity of every blueprint. He dismissed me as stuck in the past, a stubborn obstacle in his quest to optimize Summit. The board sided with him. Their eyes gleamed at the promise of faster profits and slicker operations, blind to the cracks forming beneath the surface. A directive came down: restructure the field operations. Eliminate my position and replace it with a cadre of young managers, hungry and malleable, armed more with business degrees than construction experience. They'd prioritize speed and bottom lines over craftsmanship and caution. I watched helplessly as familiar faces packed up their desks, replaced by eager new hires whose hands had never felt the grit of a job site. It was a cold purge, dressed up as progress. Summit was shedding its skin, but what lay beneath was a predator in disguise. Yet, despite the mounting pressure, something darker was brewing, something I wasn't prepared for. One stormy night, the rain pounded against the windowpanes of my small office. The city was cloaked in thunder and shadows, the kind of night that seeps into your bones. That's when my phone rang, an unknown number flashing on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. A voice, distorted and low, whispered a warning. "They're playing a dangerous game, Howard. Jason Reed and Thomas Walker, they're not just cutting corners. They're manipulating the entire market, risking lives and millions. There's proof that could bring them down." Before I could ask more, the line went dead. I tried calling back. No answer. No trace. I sat back, heart pounding, mind racing. Was it a trap? A cruel joke? Or the start of a revelation that could shatter everything? The weight of those words settled on me like the storm outside, heavy, unpredictable, and threatening. Fear flickered beneath my resolve, but it was quickly drowned out by determination. If what that voice hinted at was true, the stakes were higher than I imagined. This wasn't just about company politics or my forced retirement anymore. It was about confronting a corruption that could destroy not just Summit, but the city itself. Days passed, each meeting with Jason more charged than the last. He was relentless, pushing harder, cutting deeper. I saw the subtle ways he undermined the old guard, reassigning seasoned inspectors, fast-tracking approvals, ignoring warning signs. His charm masked a ruthless drive, a man willing to sacrifice anything for the bottom line. And me? I was a marked man, the last obstacle standing between their greed and disaster. But I wasn't ready to fold. Not yet. With every sleepless night and every whispered rumor, the battle lines drew sharper. The fight ahead wasn't just for my job, it was for the soul of Summit Construction, for the safety of every worker and family relying on these buildings. The game had changed. The storm was no longer just outside. It was inside these walls, and I was right in its path. I still remember the day they handed me the retirement papers like a dismissal note wrapped in a silver lining. 6-month severance, extended health benefits, and an offer to consult on specific projects, if they ever needed me, polite words masking the truth I already knew too well. It was their way of softening the blow, of making the ousting seem like a generous gesture. But to me, it was the final act of a long betrayal. That morning, I walked into my office one last time. The familiar hum of the building felt oddly hollow, a cruel reminder that the place I'd called home for 30 years was slipping through my fingers. The walls, once lined with blueprints and photos of proud crews, now seemed to close in, sterile and indifferent. I sat at my desk, the weight of decades pressing down on me. My fingers traced the edges of the worn photo of Catherine, her smile still as warm as the day I took it. Memories flooded back, the nights she stayed by my side as I worked late, the quiet dinners missed, the sacrifices she never complained about. She was gone, but her presence lingered, a steady light in my darkest hours. Packing was slow. I folded jackets, stacked files, and sorted through decades of notes. Each drawer I emptied was a painful reminder of the life I was leaving behind. I found old coffee mugs, faded safety vests, and countless scraps of paper covered in meticulous handwriting, reminders of battles fought and won, of permits secured against impossible odds. But the most important thing I took wasn't something ordinary. Hidden beneath the clutter of company documents was the blue folder, my private archive of every corner cut, every inspection rushed, every alteration made without proper approval. For 8 years, I'd been quietly collecting proof of the growing rot beneath Summit's polished exterior. Each page was filled with dates, locations, detailed descriptions, and photographs, silent witnesses to decisions made behind closed doors. I wasn't the one who authorized these shortcuts, I fought against them at every turn. But when the boardroom demanded faster deadlines and thinner budgets, someone had to keep track. The folder was my insurance policy, my quiet rebellion against the tide. I never imagined I'd need it to fight back, but now, clutching it to my chest, I understood just how vital it would be. In those final days, Mark Dalton was my only real comfort. Mark had been by my side for years, a steady presence amid the chaos. More than a colleague, he was a friend who understood the weight I carried. We shared long talks over stale coffee and late-night phone calls, dissecting the changes we saw swallowing Summit whole. Mark was one of the few who still believed in the old way, in building something that would last. His quiet resolve gave me strength when the walls seemed ready to collapse. Yet beneath that friendship, I sensed shadows. Small things, a delayed reply, a hesitant glance, a phone call ended abruptly whenever I entered the room. The company was changing, and not all allies were what they seemed. The rot wasn't just in policies or profit margins, it was creeping into the very hearts of those I trusted. One afternoon, as I packed away the last of my desk drawers, Mark paused at the door. His eyes held something I hadn't seen before: fear, guilt, or perhaps the weight of secrets too heavy to bear. "Howard," he said softly, "you've got to be careful. Not everyone here wants what's best." I nodded slowly, the words sinking in. The battle ahead wasn't just about exposing the company's failures, it was about navigating a web of betrayal where friends and foes wore the same face. Leaving Summit that day, I didn't feel relief or freedom. Instead, a cold determination settled over me. The blue folder wasn't just a collection of papers, it was a call to arms. The darkness inside the company was no longer hidden. I could see it spreading, and I knew I had to fight not just for myself, but for everyone who trusted Summit's name. The war was only just beginning. I arrived at the city building inspection office under a heavy gray sky, the weight of months pressing on my shoulders. The Cincinnati skyline loomed beyond the windows, a familiar yet cold reminder of what was at stake. Gloria Evans sat behind her desk, same steely eyes, same unwavering demeanor I remembered from 25 years ago. She hadn't changed, and that steadiness gave me a fragile sliver of hope. Gloria was more than just a city official, she was a rare beacon of integrity in a world increasingly clouded by compromise. Over coffee, we exchanged terse greetings. There was little need for pleasantries, years of shared battles spoke louder than words. I placed the blue folder on her desk, its thickness a testament to years of careful documentation. "Howard," she said, flipping through pages with practiced hands, "I knew things were bad, but this," her voice trailed off, the gravity settling between us like dust. We dove deep into the files, meticulous records of Summit's violations, foundations poured before permits were finalized, design changes slipped through without approval, expansions that violated setback regulations. Every project had its ghosts, hidden corners where safety was sacrificed for speed, where greed etched itself into steel and concrete. Gloria's experience with the city's inspection process helped us connect dots. These weren't isolated missteps, they were systemic. The pattern was clear: Summit's leadership, spearheaded by Thomas Walker and backed by Jason Reed's operational overhaul, or orchestrating a dangerous dance of deception. But Gloria's eyes darkened when she spoke of the costs. "They've been squeezing the inspection department for years," she confided. "Pressure from the top to overlook violations. 2 inspectors who pushed back. Reassigned without explanation. I've had threats, phone calls warning me to back off." Her voice was steady, but the fatigue was unmistakable. This was no longer just a fight about building codes, it was a war against a corrupt machine that spanned the city's bureaucratic corridors. As we planned our next moves, my phone buzzed. Mark Dalton's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated before answering. The man I once trusted, my confidant in these last months, was suddenly a question mark in my mind. "Howard, listen," Mark's voice was low, almost hurried. "You're stirring up a hornet's nest. Be careful. They're watching." His warning, though ostensibly friendly, sent a chill down my spine. Something wasn't right. Later that day, I cross-checked some recent information with Gloria. One of the inspectors we trusted had been leaking details about our investigation. The pattern was too precise, the breaches too targeted. Suspicion settled on someone inside, someone with access and motive. When I confronted Mark, the truth spilled out like a wound exposed. He wasn't just cautious, he was complicit. Months of secret meetings with Jason and Thomas, quietly feeding them information, selling out everything we stood for. The man I'd shared late-night talks with, who promised to stand by me, was a traitor. Mark's eyes avoided mine, flickering with shame and fear. "Howard, you have to understand, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. It wasn't about money alone. They threatened my family." His words hung heavy in the air. I felt a surge of betrayal so intense it nearly stole my breath. Yet beneath the anger, a cold resolve took hold. This revelation only sharpened my focus. The enemy wasn't just outside, it was deep inside. I swallowed the bitterness, knowing that losing Mark was a blow, but it also exposed the depths of the corruption we faced. Every step forward would be harder, every move watched, every ally suspect. Gloria and I redoubled our efforts, building a case that would not only expose Summit's dangerous shortcuts but also the internal rot threatening to swallow the entire city's construction integrity. The path ahead was treacherous. But with the truth as our weapon, we would press on. Because if the foundations of our city were to remain strong, the rot within had to be cut out, no matter the cost. The moment I made it clear I wouldn't be the company's scapegoat, the war truly began. Jason Reed and Thomas Walker expected compliance, a quiet nod to their schemes, a consultant who would turn a blind eye in exchange for a paycheck. But I was no stranger to the game, and I refused to be anyone's pawn. When they asked me to smooth over the permits and sign off on work that violated regulations, I told them flat out, no. We have to halt the sections of the project built without proper permits, I said firmly in my first official consulting meeting. I will advise and consult on the approved portions, but I won't help you cut corners. Their silence in the room was deafening, but my stance was unwavering. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore, I was fighting for every worker who trusted that the buildings they raised wouldn't collapse on their heads, for every family living under roofs that met code, for the integrity of this city. Gloria and I coordinated with the city's inspection teams, launching comprehensive audits across all active Summit projects. The city's inspectors, some wary but motivated, began issuing stop work orders for the worst violations, foundations laid without permits, walls erected that hadn't passed safety inspections, materials swapped out for cheaper, weaker alternatives. Word spread quickly. Inside Summit, panic spread like wildfire. Foremen faced confused crews, machinery idled, deadlines slipped into uncertainty. The construction sites became battlegrounds of uncertainty, workers anxious over paychecks, managers frantic over cost overruns. The company's reputation, once solid, was unraveling. Jason and Thomas didn't take the storm quietly. Their calls became relentless, ranging from veiled threats to desperate offers. One night, my phone buzzed with a call that sent a shiver down my spine. Howard, Jason's voice hissed through the receiver, low and menacing, you think you're doing the city a favor? You're jeopardizing thousands of jobs. Back off, or you'll regret it. I held the phone tightly, my jaw clenched. Threats meant nothing if the truth was on my side. But I knew their reach was long, their pockets deep. In the days that followed, I faced Jason in conference rooms bathed in cold fluorescent light. His gaze was icy, his smile a thin veneer masking venomous intent. You don't get to play hero here, he spat during one heated exchange. You're a relic. We're building the future, and you're standing in the way. I met his stare evenly, unflinching. The future isn't built on lies and shortcuts. Each confrontation strengthened my resolve. I kept my focus razor sharp, calculating every move like a chess game where a single misstep could cost everything. Meanwhile, the fallout on the ground was chaotic. Construction sites froze mid-operation. Workers who had labored through sweltering heat and freezing cold suddenly found themselves sent home with paychecks hanging in the balance. Foremen struggled to explain the halt, juggling frustrated crews and mounting pressure from management. I walked through one such site, the air thick with dust and tension. The silence was deafening, machines idle, men gathered in clusters, uncertainty etched on every face. I caught the eyes of a young worker, his gaze tired but grateful. It was for them I carried on. Through it all, I remained calm, methodical. I knew the fight would be long. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was my commitment. Every phone call, every meeting, every quiet moment of planning was a step towards the reckoning that had to come. Behind the scenes, I quietly gathered more evidence, working closely with Gloria, city inspectors, and trusted lawyers. I knew the final blow had to be precise and undeniable. Our files grew heavier with proof, emails, recordings, memos revealing the deliberate cover-ups, the manipulation of permits, the push to prioritize profits over safety. I devised a plan to present a comprehensive case that would leave no room for doubt or escape. The timing had to be perfect. Public hearings, legal actions, media exposure, each element carefully orchestrated to dismantle the corrupt empire Jason and Thomas had built. As pressure mounted on them, cracks appeared. Whispers of dissent circulated within Summit's ranks. Some managers, faced with the evidence, grew uneasy. The facade of control Jason and Thomas projected was beginning to crumble. But they were not done. Their tactics grew more desperate, smear campaigns, threats against inspectors, attempts to intimidate city officials. The battle was no longer just legal or professional, it was personal. I felt the weight of it all, but my purpose was clear. I wasn't fighting just to win, I was fighting to restore what was broken, to safeguard the city and the people who depended on honest work. In the quiet moments, I reviewed our amassed evidence, going over every detail. Each piece was a nail in the coffin of deception, a shield for the truth. I prepared to strike decisively. The climax was approaching, and when it came, there would be no turning back. The fight was far from over, but with Gloria at my side and justice as our guide, I knew we were ready to deliver the final, crushing blow. The day the inspection report was presented at the city council, the air was thick with tension and anticipation. I sat quietly in the back row, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes in the chamber. The room was packed with contractors, developers, city officials, and reporters, all waiting to hear the truth that could change everything. Gloria took the podium, her voice steady and commanding as she laid out the findings. Slide after slide revealed the undeniable evidence: systemic violations across 12 Summit projects, unauthorized design changes, dangerous material substitutions, foundations poured without permits, and deliberate attempts to bypass safety regulations. Each detail was backed by the meticulous records I had compiled, corroborated by city inspectors and expert testimony. The room murmured with shock as the facts sank in. Thomas Walker, seated at the front with his legal team, appeared pale and defeated. The weight of the accusations was crushing. Moments later, he stood and announced his resignation, a tacit admission of the damage done. Jason Reed, caught in the storm, quietly packed up and left Cincinnati without a word. Summit Construction was left reeling. The financial losses were staggering, and the company faced an unprecedented mandate, a comprehensive audit of every project completed over the last decade, all at their own expense. Heavy fines loomed, and the once proud reputation of Summit was shattered. In the aftermath, I received an unexpected call. Peter Hammond, the owner of Ashenbrook Builders, one of Summit's main competitors, offered me the position of Director of Quality Assurance. It was a chance to rebuild, to apply the lessons learned, and to make a real difference. Standing on the 19th floor of a half-finished office tower in downtown Cincinnati, I watched as crews carefully installed steel framing, each beam measured and placed with precision. The air was crisp, the noise of machinery a constant hum, but there was a sense of order and respect here, a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left behind. Megan, my new assistant, smiled and said, "The city inspector signed off on the drainage plan this morning. Said it's the most thorough documentation she's ever seen." I nodded, satisfaction settling deep in my bones. Good. Schedule the concrete pour for next week. Weather permitting. Make sure environmental monitors are in place before we start. As I looked out over the city, my mind drifted to the journey that brought me here, the battles fought, the betrayals endured, the truths uncovered. The construction industry had changed, and so had I. This was more than a job. It was a calling. The fire that had burned within me for decades, the commitment to safety, integrity, and craftsmanship, was alive and unyielding. Persistence and patience, coupled with unwavering ethics, can overcome even the most ruthless schemes. Justice, though often delayed, arrives for those brave enough to stand for truth. And vengeance, when wielded wisely, serves not just to punish but to illuminate and reform a broken system. I turned from the window and stepped back into the bustle of the site, ready to build not just structures, but a legacy rooted in honor. Thank you for following Howard's journey with me. It's a story about standing firm when everything around you seems to crumble, about fighting for what's right even when the odds are stacked against you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment where doing the right thing felt almost impossible? How did you find the strength to keep going? Please feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss more stories like this. I truly appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more with you soon. Take care, and thank you for being here.